Ray Allen Canine. It's no secret that we love Ray Allen Canine equipment. We use their products every single day at both Van Ness Canine and at Torchlight. Their mission statement says it all: to be the world leader in quality innovation for professional canine equipment for police, military, Schutzen, and ring sport. Tend to exceed their customers' expectations and deliver on time every time at a fair price. We full-heartedly believe that they've held true to that, since it is our go-to one-stop shop for everything canine, not just police dogs, but for any working dog.
This episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at Dogtra, dogtra.com. It's the e-collars that Ted and I use. It's the e-collars most police dog guys use. Dogtra.com, e-collars, bark collars, ball launchers, one-stop shop for everything you need for your working dog, dogtra.com.
One of the other sponsors we're proud to have is Hitz Canine Training Conference. It's the premier canine training seminar in the United States, packed to the brim with the world's best instructors covering important topics from admins to liability to detection work, all and tracking and everything in between. There's no better place to learn and no better place to network with other handlers, breeders, and trainers. Hitz 2022 is being held in Orlando in August. So hit them up, hitzcanine.net.
We're super happy to be represented by our good friends at Kinetic Dog Food. We've got great reviews from people all over the place. Ever since we joined up with them and partnered with them, their commitment to your dog's nutrition is top notch. KineticDogFood.com. Check them out.
Jim over at NC Canine out in North Carolina. It's the culmination of 13 years of experience in handling or training law enforcement canines. They use real world deployments to develop their training program and rely not only on their experience, but the current experience of the nation's canine handlers provide the best canine partner you can get. They provide pet training and police canine training based out of Four Oaks, North Carolina, and they serve the surrounding areas as well as nationally. Feel free to call them and learn more about their dog training program, police canine techniques, and methodologies.
We got a brand new sponsor, man, American Aluminum Accessories. My entire time in canine, and ever since I've been involved in the dogs, the kennel in the back of our cruisers has always been American Aluminum. Check them out. We're so happy to have them on here. EasyRiderOnline.com, EasyRiderOnline.com for everything you need from American Aluminum Accessories.
Speaking of kennels, once you get out of the car, you got to have somewhere to put them. So our friends up in Ohio at Horizon Structures make a one-stop shop for kennel. If you want a 2-dog kennel or if you want a 20-dog kennel, they got you covered. They get those things built and they drop it off at your house. All you got to have is a pad, electricity, and water, and you can put dogs in it that day. Horizon Structures can build you anything from mild to wild, and it is the one-stop shop, and you don't have to swing a single hammer. So hit them up, horizonstructures.com.
All right, everybody, we are back. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite. Coming to you from Canton, Ohio and Tulsa, Oklahoma. This is going to be part two, our first part two, actually. We've had guests on 2, 3, 4 times, but we've never done part two. The last episode with our buddy Travis Bobo was so good, and we realized when we got done that we didn't even cover his second dog, and there's a lot more to it. But anyways, I'm coming to you from my beautiful lake house. It's really nice out today. Ted from Tulsa, Oklahoma, shirtless as usual, sleeveless, I should say. Hey, I like
It's
that.
hot.
How'd you get that thing in the back? I'm looking at my blinds. You got some cool shit. So what's going on there?
That's our thing for conferences that we use for the booth and stuff when we go to Hitz. And I figured I'd use it since we haven't had it out since for COVID. So I was like, fuck it, I'll get this thing out and use it as a backdrop. I mean, that's what it's for. So yeah, it has a podium.
Our buddy Brian's like, yes, we're not looking at your bedroom, and I got to do something back here.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's hot. That's why I got sleeveless stuff. I have shirts with sleeves. I wear a lot of hoodies, but I mean, it's fucking hot. It's hot as shit here. It's like 95 degrees and it's humid. It's super windy today.
Tomorrow, I'm wearing a sleeveless shirt.
There you go.
I got to cut one. So
most of these start out with sleeves. So the thing end up without them. I just get frustrated. I'm like, it's super fucking hot. So so just kind of recap. We had Travis on the last episode. So this one, last episode, we kind of talked about how you did 8 years before you even went over to selection. And you picked dogs because you didn't want to be a SWIC instructor. We talked about your dog pooping on the tarmac and eating Sundanese bacon from the ambassador. and then punching people in strip club parking lots. So,
Can I step in here real quick, Ted, on that?
Sure.
So I was thinking about something in regards to the knocking dudes out in the strip club parking lot, and who Travis was with that night at the strip club, and it was our friend Josh David from 2 episodes ago or 3 episodes ago, I think it is. And I just want to play you a little segment of that interview when he claimed that he has never been to a strip club.
Talk to us about when you get to Denver, Indiana to see Timo.
Did you go right to the strip club?
Yeah, I was going to say.
I've actually never been to a strip club.
Oh,
I know, right? I might be the only person in my community who's never done that.
Coming from Tulsa, that's saying something.
Yeah.
Okay, as you can see from the audio that we put in there, he's truly busted. So I'm not even a chick. I don't know who you're trying to convince, Josh, that you've never been to a strip club, but again, nobody buys it. So anyways.
Man,
why would you lie about that? Like, of all things, like, what's there to be ashamed of?
Yeah.
We used to play
anal is gross. Is that next? Josh,
we used to play a game in strip clubs called How Much Money Do You Make? And I used to tell strippers I was an artist, and they're like, "Oh, like, are you famous?" I'm like, yeah, I'm super famous. Like, you see my work all over the place. So they're like, whatever. And they're like, where, and I had some girl finally ask me, she's like, where can I see your art? And I was like, those lines on the road? That's me. And she got up and didn't talk to me the rest of the night. I was like, yes, fantastic. So
we have good benefits. You should just do that out there.
Agner has another story similar to that, but I'll have to let him tell it sometime. So we're going to pick up kind of like where we left off. We left off last time. You were still up in Indiana and at the strip club. That's where we ended. So you were there getting your second dog. Actually, your third dog, because your first dog that was injured when she broke her foot jumping out of it. Was she burnt out a parking garage? Or what was it? I don't remember.
No, it was a mount site. It was a training village. So we had these. Essentially, they were barracks. They were old barracks with the windows already busted out of them. And she left the third-story window.
Dogs.
So, at this point, you do a rotation. You were in the country, the Middle East, and then you were in Central Africa. You come back. That dog gets retired. So how did we start the second dog and the process with that?
Yeah, so it was started the same as the first. I went back to Von Lake Kennels. And I'm sure you guys are familiar with this, but for anyone listening that's not, any dog that is being picked up by USASOC, it has to go through the full green dog training program. And it's got to go through the full basic course. So someone's got to carry the dog through. So we went back up. I went back up, a couple guys from the group. And Mr. Putnam selected the second dog, kind of with my input this time because I had a little bit of experience. So I got a dog named Robbie. Good dog, solid dog. We actually ran Robbie and a spare through the course, and we ended up bringing both of the dogs back. So I get the dog back to third group. I was only on ground back home for 2 or 3 months, and it was time to turn and burn again. The dog wasn't ready yet. I was ready, so I ended up grabbing Jasmine because I had already pulled Jasmine, the dog, the veteran dog that was supposed to be retired, and bringing her back overseas with me again. And I actually brought 2 dogs. That was my trip with the SMU, was that second trip. So I brought a dog from the SMU, single purpose, off lead, floppy ear, and brought Jasmine with me. And I'm glad I did because the single purpose ended up bowing out first month in, couldn't handle the environmentals, couldn't handle the heat, riding around in the trucks. Phenomenal dog detection back in the rear, but just shut down completely overseas.
Yeah. Did you find that it was like the noise, just everything? We interviewed a handler before, and the dog started to figure out as it was getting closer to, I think it was Yuma. When they would go to Yuma, the dogs would realize what was happening. because they had been there before and they just started shutting down. Then when they got overseas, it was just too much from the day one. How long were you there before you started noticing that?
Almost immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this dog had a history. This dog had been on that compound for many years, and it was trained by some of the best guys in the industry. So the dog showed well, the dog worked well. I mean, he was a phenomenal dog. But as soon as we left, as soon as we left the homeland, touched down in another country, he was done. Of course, I gave him his dues. I tried to work him. I tried quite a few different things to entice him, but it just wasn't going to work. And it was too much of a liability.
Yeah, that's the last thing you need, man, is it? Because you're not looking forward. You're looking at the dog who's not doing, and you're stressed and wondering, and and the guys are pushing, you got to go or whatever. So then you end up just taking Jasmine out of everything?
Yeah, I did. So I ended up sending that dog back. One of the trainers from that unit came over, one of the civilian trainers, just to see it for himself. And he did. He agreed with everything that I was saying. And it was too much to work on. It was too far past the dog at this point. So I ended up working Jasmine on everything, which that kind of left me with the conundrum that I mentioned last time. We were finding, a large quantity of explosives almost on a daily basis. And I'm doing it all from a 30-foot lead now with a dog that hadn't been trained with any directionals. So I started taking some of the workup training that I got with the SMU guys, and basically ad hoc with YouTube and Pat Nolan videos on teaching this dog directionals, real down and dirty. And luckily
in country.
In country, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
On live over. On live finds, you're like, hey, go the fuck that way. Go that way.
Let's try this.
So
Yeah.
were the team guys pretty understanding on that? I mean, obviously the dog plays a vital role, especially for what you guys were doing. Were they pretty understanding about, you're like, look, man, this is not the dog I brought, but it's the dog we're working right now. And then you bring her out and you're like, look, this is the replacement and she doesn't know how to do this yet. So, I mean, you're going to have to bear with me a little bit.
Yeah, they were absolutely understanding because our numbers kind of spoke for themselves. And that's not me beating my chest. Her numbers spoke for herself is what I should say. That dog, I can't speak for the other groups. I can't speak for the other units, but, obedience to odor is number one priority in the kennel that I left and the regiment that I left at the time is, and it held true regardless of anything else. I knew if I placed a dog downwind and I started working that line, if there was something out there, that dog was going to be obedient to odor, no matter what. Even if she wasn't being obedient to me right now, she was going to be obedient to odor, and I just had to put her in the right place at the right time.
So what changed between the deployments? If you can say, as far as the way that this stuff was being hidden, or what changed between Central Africa and in Syria? I mean, obviously, other than the continent change, but
yeah. So, are you speaking? You're speaking dog specific, correct?
Yeah, as much as you can get into, right?
Yeah.
What, the battle space changes, what they're using changes. We talked about that det cord that nobody had ever seen before. When I was doing the stuff for the West Coast for Cobra Canine, they were really focused on pressure plate stuff. But before that, it was not. It was all remote. And then they were using RDX, and then they were using HMEs, and then a bunch of different things. As much as you can get into what you learn differently.
It was a major difference, at least between those two theaters. And prior to that, prior to working the dog, I lived in Afghanistan, so I knew that theater inside and out. And this was different than anything I'd ever been involved in. We had a no bullshit front line. It was as close to a conventional fight as you can get outside of, I guess, the Gulf War in our era. And they had time they had already dug in. They had years where they had dug in prior to. So they had phase lines built, and they were a lot more technologically advanced than anyone else I had ever been in conflict with, probably more so than anyone else we've ever been in conflict with in the modern history. So the triggers were different. We ran across a lot of PIR triggers, a lot of photo cell triggers, daisy chained IEDs. I mean, you name it, it was different. There was large caches of Soviet era munitions. So we weren't facing just backyard homemade lab made material. We were facing military grade explosives and everything in between with, pretty intricate triggers. So, and then the battle space itself was completely different. It was no longer an insurgency, and this is the first time for me speaking, not just in a dog sense, not just in a handler sense, that I ever had to watch the sky. And that was completely different. I mean, we owned the sky at a certain altitude, but below that altitude, they were flying DJI drones in on us and dropping bombs, and it was, everything was different completely. We were the living situations were different. And this was probably the hardest thing for the dog. Even the veteran dogs like Jasmine that had been around 11, 12 years. We were living in vehicles, in up armored vehicles for weeks and weeks at a time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks at a time before we'd go back and reset for a day or two. And we were right back out again. So the dog didn't get a reset. And you would try as much as you could as the handler to get that dog in the kennel, get some AC on them, get them some downtime. But, the vehicle's always running. Our mortar crew was nonstop 24/7 dropping mortars, already going off. It was hard. It was a tough theater to be in, being as anthropomorphic as I can for a dog, and what I could imagine. So I think I had the right dog for that mission.
Yeah, you talk about the difference in training and the difference in being technologically advanced. When we had Paul Hammond on, he worked in Northern Ireland, and obviously theirs was a lot different than what you were dealing with there, but he made a pretty good comment. He was like, I don't understand why canine handlers in the United States are training on dynamite and C4. And I mean, I understand why they need to train on it, but when he was, if you're listening to this, you need to go back and listen to the episode. We did that. Eric, when did we do that? I don't remember. It was a good episode.
We did him at
first
one of the seminars.
Yeah, I think it was at Hitz. I don't know. We'll put it in the show notes, or one of us will look it up.
First Blue Line, maybe?
Yeah, but he made a good comment. He was like, if you're, in the United States, we have explosive stuff not all the time, but the last major ones that have gone off have all been HME. And he was like, I know canine handlers and them too. And they're like, they're training on fucking dynamite and RDX. And the one thing the ATF has managed to do correctly is keep that shit out of people's hands for the most part. That's about all they've done correctly. But so.
And if you're my age, every time you train on dynamite, you remember Andy Griffith, where the goat ate the dynamite and then they walked him out and he exploded out of town. That's an old guy reference. There's like 8 listeners are going to be like, got it.
Yeah, they're definitely not watching on YouTube. They're listening to it,
Right.
probably with corded headphones. So you, the theater was different, and it was super environmentally taxing. And so how long, I mean, you're over there and you make a good point. The dogs never really get downtime. And that's kind of one thing that, I'm training a bunch of pets right now, and you cannot work those dogs. I can only do so many sessions a day before, they're just gassed and they don't want to do anything. So how much of an issue was endurance, and what did you have to do a little differently to kind of address the endurance aspect for being out in the field for 11, 12, 14 days without coming back to resupply?
It was a balance for sure. So obviously you still want to stay current as you can. You're in theater, but you want to stay as current as you can on training, because the dog needs a constant refresher. Especially this dog. This dog would try you. She wouldn't give you a false positive, but it was damn near a false positive where if she was tired, she'd get close enough, but she had her telltales. If you worked it long enough, you knew. So it was a balance, and it was a balance with the weather and the heat. It was a balance with the stress of the day. And been with her long enough that, you know, I knew her tells. I knew the signals that she was throwing at me and where she was at mindset wise. So it was a constant watch on that dog. I know you brought up something, and it's kind of off the topic of what you just asked me, but we were talking about that benign odor. It wasn't a benign odor, but the odor that was giving all the handlers in theater a problem. One of the other issues we had in this theater specific was in ammonium nitrate based IEDs, you either have an ANFO or you have ANAL, not to be mistaken with anal, with half the listeners probably automatically thinking, but ammonium nitrate and aluminum mix, where they were using kind of a mixture of both. And what we found was what they were doing was they were taking silver spray paint and spray painting it on plexiglass. And we ran across enough of their labs. This is how we found out. And when it would dry, they would scrape it up and they would grind it into powder. And then they would mix that in with the pure ammonium nitrate. We found so many that Jasmine had inadvertently been imprinted on spray paint. And we found this out because once myself and EOD would finish clearing our perimeters, we would mark the edges in spray paint, in ground spray paint. And then I'd let her out, let her run around, give her a break, and she would run up and alert. And it took 2 or 3 times before it finally clicked that she was hitting on where we were marking the ground with that fluorescent orange paint. And then I had to make sure that's what it was. So I set up a few pseudo boxes with some center block I found out in the field. And sure enough, she was hitting clear as day on spray paint. So I had to proof this dog off of spray paint in the field in the middle of this theater. So that was another challenge.
That's insane.
It don't take much either.
Clever fuckers. They're spray painting and then grinding it up and scraping off and spraying it. That's interesting. Here they just fucking huff it. Yeah, I mean, I saw some of that today. It's interesting because, you know, I had a dog at one point. We had a bomb dog. I had a guy going through my trainer's course. He ran a bomb dog, and the dog was showing. He wasn't giving us a full alert, but he was giving us some like indications on pot, like on marijuana. I'm like, what in the fuck is wrong with this dog? Like, what's wrong with you? You know? And I went back and looked at the paperwork on it and where it had come from and everything else. Come to find out, there's a very popular spray fertilizer that's used on that stuff. And the dog was like, "Hey, this is familiar." I'm like, "No, it's not," but he was right. So, no, it's interesting that so they would use ANFO and anal, and so that's where they got the aluminum. Because when you said that, I was like, "Where the fuck are they going to get it?" I thought they were going to like steal some rocket boosters or something or whatever and grind them up or find some way to file them down or something. But interesting. I was like, God dang, that'd take for fucking ever. But it's not. I got time. I got time on their hands.
So when you said that half of the listeners will think ANAL is anal, I don't know about that, but half of the hosts will for sure. I can tell you that because I'm an idiot. So real quick, before we take a break, I just want to talk kind of psychological about that theater because I've thought about this a lot. So going back to Afghanistan and probably Iraq and everything, we or you, the SMUs you're with, the other units you're with, own the evening. They own the night. Night vision's a big thing. I assume that was not the case in this theater, and it was probably a little unnerving, that part.
Yeah, I mean, we still own the night. I mean, because we still own the air. But yeah, it was definitely more of a threat there, and it was something that we had to be a lot more aware of. And their tactical prowess, at least the initial wave of guys that we were hitting, was a lot more on par with conventional units. I mean, they were running IMT techniques. They were running infantry movement techniques on us. They were using typical bracketing fire with their mortar systems. I mean, it was a different fight. It was a fight that I felt like was worth fighting. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Like, it was good. I mean,
did you ever go over and fuck with any of the mortars? I know them dudes like to do that. If they're like, this is cool, let me do this.
Yeah, so that's I mean, I had a background in artillery. I was artillery
Right.
for 8 years. So I helped the mortar crew. Once I was done and we had done our clear, my job was essentially over. So I would jump in wherever I fit in, and I typically stayed with the mortar crew. Plus the mortar crew that we had with us, they were out of Ranger Bat, so I kind of got along with those guys a little bit. They were more of the same ideology of
Yeah.
you know kill everything in the theater. So
All right, perfect time to. I like that. It's
Yeah.
perfect time to take a break. We're going to go ahead and take a commercial break. Don't skip through the commercials. I know you will. So make sure at the end you look at the show notes for everything. And Ted, do you know how I know they're skipping through the commercials? Because I skip through the commercials, not ours. Every other podcast I listen to, I skip through them all.
I just thought it was because people always inbox me or text me and they ask me for the discount codes. I'm like,
Yeah. I'm like, I have to look it up.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I can't remember shit. So, anyways, we'll be right back. We have a long-standing relationship with the guys over at Hitz Canine Training Conference. It's truly America's premier canine seminar. It is the largest. It is the best. They cover every important topic in the canine industry. Hundreds and hundreds of vendors, thousands of canine people there. Everybody you know in this industry is there. Ted and I will be teaching. Hitz 2022 is being held in Orlando, Florida, August 16th to the 19th. Also, check out their website, hitzcanine.net. They have other classes that they're putting out online, Zoom classes and all kinds of other things. They're offering in-person classes leading up to Hitz 2022, Orlando, Florida, August 16th to the 19th. Check it out, hitzcanine.net.
everyone knows that I live on chicken nuggets and Coors Light. So that doesn't mean your dog should, though. Our friends at Kinetic are make it a point to fuel working dogs, and they know that it can be tough, and they need high quality food, unlike me, to give them energy and the nutrients that they require. I just subsist on air and Coors Light, but the dogs can't. They actually have to work. So for that, we asked Kinetic, and Kinetic has come up with a great balance of healthy meats and grains and is made specifically for working and sport dogs. They have a full line of foods and supplements available, and they've been working to perfect their line for thousands of dogs in hundreds of departments across the U.S. You can buy it locally online or at Tractor Supply, or you can get it at Chewy. So head over to their website, kineticdogfood.com, 513-615-6904, and get them on the socials at Kinetic Dog Food.
So probably the number one product I've ever advertised for or used that does what they say is Quick Derm by Vet Care. I have it at my house. I have it at the kennel. I have it at the fun house. I have it at the doggy daycare. I have my trainers have it at their house. It is unbelievable how it works. You guys have all heard Ted and I talk about it, how we've gotten tagged by dogs, or dogs do, if you're dealing with working dogs, weird stuff happens, right? Cuts that, how the hell that happened? Bites, scratches, all kinds of things that happen, especially if you're doing anything in the wooded area, they get tore up. The Quick Derm by Vet Care, it is no exaggeration. It is great. So once daily treatment for any skin condition or small wounds to help stop little issues from becoming big ones. Comes in sprays, ointments, or dressing. Quick Derm is great at creating a protective barrier and promoting wound healing. The best thing too is they have a discount code. Get on their website, vetcare.us. That's vetcare.us. Put in the discount code 10WDR in capital letters, 10WDR for 10% off your first order.
These next guys have actually been on the show, and we instructed at the first Tripwire conference down in Florida. Jim O'Brien was a guest on the show, and he runs NC-K9, who has now come onto the show as a sponsor. Jim's been around for quite a long time, about 13-ish years, with experience handling and training law enforcement canines. He uses real-world deployments to develop training program and not rely only on their experience, but current experiences from most of their national canine teams and handlers to provide the best canine partner that you guys can purchase. They provide pet training and police canine services based out of Four Oaks, North Carolina, and they serve the surrounding areas. Feel free to give Jim a call, a text, carrier pigeon, however you want to get a hold of him, to talk to him about police canine training or pets and techniques and methodologies. So hit him up at 919-438 0141 or J O'Brien. That's JOBRIEN at NC letter K number 9.us. Check the show notes. We'll put it there.
All right, we are back, guys. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite, part 2, with our conversation with our buddy Travis Bobo, wearing a sweet ass Exxon shirt. You need some other dude's random name on there. I was at the Goodwill store looking for shirts, big shirts to put over hidden sleeves, and I found this sweet button-down shirt, a guy's work shirt with the other dude's name. And I'm like, this thing, dude, it's a nice shirt. I'm like, every time I go out, I'm wearing this. In case something happens, who do you think you are? Oh, I'm this motherfucker right here. Right here. Be sure to tell the cops when they show up, this is who punched you in the mouth. Anyways, I want to switch gears real quick. I just thought of this while we were talking. Ted and I are messaging on this little Zoom message thing. When I was out doing the West Coast stuff, the Navy had an entire service-wide moratorium shut down on helo ops of any kind. It was something to do with a patent lawsuit over a piece of gear on the stop descender. I don't know if they were using Petzl or what they were using. Yeah. So we did no helicopter ops whatsoever, no fast roping, nothing. And so I have never had any experience with it, and I don't pretend to. And I just realized as we were doing this, I was like, I guarantee you Travis has done a lot with that. And I want to kind of step back into the training side, if you would, and talk a little bit about what that looks like from a new dog moving forward, mistakes that you see make, and what seemed to work best for you with the dogs you had.
Yeah, specifically with the helos and desensitizing to the aircraft.
Yeah, that, and then not just that, and then the actual work, if you did any, fast roping or anything, just deploying out of the helicopter, kind of, because we haven't talked about that with any of our guests whatsoever.
Yeah, so I mean, it's approached the same way that everything else is approached in training. I mean, you're approaching it through that successive approximation approach based off of that dog specifically, and how much they're willing to tolerate. And then, using their drives, using whatever their highest drive is to coax them along until they finally get comfortable with it through exposure. But what I have found, and this is my experience, again, other guys may have other experiences. What I've seen through all the dogs, all the training, all the handlers that we worked with, and we worked fast roping quite a bit, only in training. I've never fast roped with the dog live, but we did train it quite often. Was that no dog gets used to it. No dog wants to go off that tower. And the first time they go off that tower, they never want to go up that tower again. If they're obedient enough, they kind of go along, but begrudgingly. So our way to skin that cat was we just didn't give them the option. You're in a muzzle. We've got the Y harness hooked up to the descender. And we just throw the dog off and let the dog's weight carry you off and cam that descender. And then once you're cammed, you get down and it's rainbows and butterflies and tennis balls.
And they never get used to it, though.
Yeah, I have never seen a dog that's gotten used to it. I've never seen a dog that's happy to know that at the end of this, they're getting their reward, versus almost anything else that we've trained in. I mean, even rifle fire, like, the veteran dogs know at the end of this, I'm going to get a reward, and I go back in the truck, and you see it in them. But anything with altitude, I've never seen the dogs get used to it. So we just finally, we just don't give the dogs the option at that point. You're going off this tower. I'm not going to try to coax you off of it. We're just going to throw you off and let your weight carry me.
And you're not going to die.
Yeah.
I promise you're not going to die. Who is it, Eric? I think it's Dustin Wynn that's always posting videos of helo casting in the water. And hearing that story, I'm like,
it looked like I don't know if he developed it, but it shows his system of the way they hold the dog out in front.
Right.
And they step off into the water from, I'm assuming small, and then they get higher in the platforms. And the way the dog goes down in, it looks pretty, pretty like solid the way they go in. Was the whole thing, no one stand under the tower because the anal gland stuff is going to come raining down on everybody?
I've never seen it.
Oh.
I'm sure it's happened. I do know of a guy that for some reason they allowed him to get in the tunnel with a live dog for free fall train up, and the dog defecated in the tunnel and it shot through the fans. They had to shut the whole tunnel down for like a week and clean it all out. So
Dude, I would have loved to see that. That's fucking great.
Yes.
I know what happens on a treadmill when a dog shits on it because they do it every day at my facility. I can't imagine in an air tunnel. That's freaking great.
Fucking free fall tunnel.
You know, them dudes in there were like, motherfucker.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Holy shit. So in terms of being in that theater too, because when you guys left, when you came back, like it was still going on. What was the kind of like winding down part about? And then I assume your guys' replacements, you had a long conversation with them. But when you like, what was the winding down phase like? And then what was Jasmine like when she got back?
Yeah, so the winding down phase, we weren't there very long. It was a 4-month trip, but within that 4 months, the mission was almost over at that point. It was going from a force on force, from a frontline fight to an insurgency, which was something that the U.S. military was very familiar with at that point. That SMU that I was with, the task force that I was with, was starting to do a formal handoff with one of the groups, being that that's their bread and butter, was the FID missions, the insurgency missions, and the group that Josh was with at the time, and that formal handover started to take place. A lot of the kinetic operations started to die down. But yeah, the threat of IEDs and explosives was still extremely high, more so than any theater we've ever been in. So that RIP process between handler was probably the most important RIP process taking place from teammate to teammate there.
So where's Robbie at this point when you're done?
He's still back at the kennel at this point. So Robbie ended up going to, I want to say he went to one of the other handlers that had a dog wash out, and became his primary dog at that point.
So you never even got the chance to work him after all that training and everything?
No. And then I ended up going back to VLK again once I got back. So I think I've spent 9 or 10 months total formal at VLK, because I went back for the trainers course, which is, you show up 3 or 4 weeks. I can't remember. It's 3 or 4 weeks prior to the basic course taking place, going through imprinting dogs from a green dog, bringing them up, getting them ready for the students to get there, handing them off to the students once they get there, and then working hand in hand with the students through the entire basic course.
Did you like that?
Yeah, I did. I really did. I liked, probably what I liked about it the most was getting my hands on multiple dogs back to back to back, 10 or 15 dogs a day, getting to see the differences in every dog, getting to see the little quirks in every dog, getting to kind of fine tune the difference in the drives between dogs and how to handle them. So I think that's the bread and butter of a handler, of a trainer, is being able to work whatever problems in front of you right then and there. So that's what I liked about it the most. It did kind of slow down quite a bit once the students got there and the basic course picked up. We were just kind of in the back seat, helping set problems.
Yeah, Ted and I talk about it a lot. It's when you have a group of dogs in your kennel, or if you're working at a kennel place, it's a factory. It's not glamorous. It's dog working reps, next dog working reps, next dog, next dog, next dog. If you have somebody to bring you the dog, or you are working in a team, it works out real well. But when you're like me, where I'm doing most of it by myself, I do have a kid that helps me now, and it's nice having that. Ted oftentimes is by himself unless he has an intern. And it's just rep after rep after rep after rep. But that's where you learn the difference between being a trainer and just a handler, is all the different dogs and the different way they do things. So I just got 3 dogs in the other day, 2 mouths and a pointer. And
what
One's a bomb dog, and the other two are going to be drug dogs. The two drug dogs are going to be work completely different than the bomb dog based on their motivation and the way things are going. Within about a day or two, I figured that out. But I've always said the big difference is between a handler and a trainer is problem solving. And if you want to become a trainer, you should really handle 1 million dogs and learn from that. Ted, do you agree with all that?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Like that's the thing. You know, people ask me all the time. They're like, "How many dogs have you trained?" That's like something. Like I did an interview or something, and somebody asked me, and I was like, "Fuck, I don't even know." Like a lot. I mean, I was like, "We have dogs in like 18 states or something." And I was like, I don't even know. A lot. And occasionally, like early on, I had some dogs that kind of gave me some issues. But it's kind of the thing. Like I use Dutch boxes, I'll use poppers, I'll use one thing I won't do is the throw and retrieve. I don't do that. But you know, it depends a lot on because a lot of times I'll get these dogs in and I'm like, well, fuck, this is the dog. I mean, here it is. Or the department will bring me a dog, right? And the dog ends up kind of working out sometimes. And I'm like, if he doesn't like doing the Dutch box thing, like that dog that we sold to South Dakota, Giz, he would not play. He did not he did not like Dutch boxes, just wouldn't do it. So if I wasn't proficient with a box protocol, I wouldn't have been able to train him. Or if he was the other way around, like if all I knew was a box protocol and the dog was like, nah, I really want to play tug. You can't really play tug with a fucking tennis ball. So I can't play tug and odor with the dog ball that comes out of a fucking. So, and it's two very different methods, like super different. And when I did Pepper for SEAL team, she finally went home. So she's going to be on TV again. Yeah. So I did her, and she's on 4 or 5 actual bomb motors. She's on like C4, RDX, deck board, double and single smokeless, and something else. But everything with her, and it was interesting because when she came in, one, she's super vocal, which is super fucking annoying. And Melnick was always like, dude, she's got to stop barking. So I extinguished that. The problem was, I'm not going to mention who did her foundation, but the e-collar, anytime she got corrected, she would recall. So it was basically a forced recall. So I couldn't correct her at source for barking or pawing because if I tagged her with an e-collar, she'd come back to me, which I didn't want her to do. So it was an interesting problem to solve. I put a huge Patreon video up on it. I started her out in the box protocol, Dutch boxes, and then I independently worked on a off-leash recall and off-leash hunt with sort of like Travis was talking about with directionals. And I can direct her from 50 meters away. I can like yell at her and point, and she'll go that direction and look. She'll look for landmarks, like she'll look for cars, and like we did some route clearance stuff with her. But she'll hunt her ass off by herself. And then there's videos of me that are, you can find them, that I just like, you hear me say Pepper, yes. And she comes back and fucking mocks back, and I catch her on tug. But it was an interesting problem because I'm like, fuck, how am I going to keep her from barking? Cause I can't use a bark collar because she tries to recall. So I had to cap her drive without pressure. So it was an interesting problem to solve, and it took me a little bit. I'm like, fuck, how am I going to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And so I figured it out though, but it turned out to be, I mean, most people have just written her off now because she's not an actual. I mean, Melanie's still a cop. She's not an actual like NPC or police dog, but because I had time, I'm like, all right, I can probably because if I had to figure this out on an actual dog, I'd been like, this is not the right dog. Turns out if I had 6 months to do it, which I did, she could be a legit fucking explosive dog, like no problem. I mean, she'll get 100 yards away from you looking, and the directionals I could clean up, but I didn't need to because she's not gonna, the cameras can't see that far for CBS. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. She's not gonna be that far away from camera. But
I can see that far, and I can't see close now. That's turned out to be a problem. Fucking 51. I'm almost 52, dude. August 7th. So you're up there, running the handler courses. Handler courses can be super frustrating. Enough that I'm canceled my fall one because I don't want to do one for a while. I've done 1 million handler courses over the last several years, and I'm over it for a while. So you get done there, then what happens? Where do you take that? What goes with that?
So I ended up, while I was there, I ended up running a dog. because we needed a spare at the kennel. So while I was going through, I was running another dog. So all the students would run through the problems first. And then I'd pull this dog out and I'd run him through, and it gave me something else to do while I was there. Ended up getting that dog back to the kennel. And that was honestly, that was about it for me, for my military career. I got back. There was a lot of things that were going on with me, TBI wise. And luckily I had a phenomenal kennel master that had been there before and seen these signs. And I was actually on cue to deploy again. And I want to say it was back to the same theater. I was supposed to go back to the same theater, back with the same group of guys. I'd already been with them. They wanted me to come back with them. And he pulled me and he said, look, you've got two choices here. He was like, you're either going to go get checked out and do it on your own accord, or I'm going to make it a command directed. And you're going to go either way. So of course I was livid. Extremely livid, because it is something in the special operations community that if you do the job long enough, it's kind of a death sentence. If you go there and you're not truthful, it's kind of a one and done. And if you go there and you are truthful, chances are they're going to find a disqualifier in you anyways. And they ended up finding 4 disqualifiers in me. I had scarring on the brain from an IED I was in that theater. We were in a 500-pounder VBIED. I was 2 vehicles away, knocked us all out in the vehicle, decimated our partner force that was leading us out. It vaporized all 5 of them. I had broke my neck twice on 2 separate incidents, and some other stuff, but they found enough to basically disqualify me from the military at that point. And I was offered, because of my time in, I was offered what they call continue active duty service, where they basically stamp you with a non-deployable status and you ride a desk for the rest of your time. I had 3 years left, or right under 3 years left. I couldn't see myself riding a desk. No one joins SF to ride a desk. And looking at it from a monetary standpoint, it was the same either way. It was the same whether I got out right then, or if I stayed in for 3 years. So that kind of moved me to the next chapter. But that happened almost immediately after getting back from that 3rd trip at VLK.
Yeah, that's so I had a TBI from a motorcycle crash, right? And the stuff I went through is probably similar to a lot of what you did, but I still don't remember the crash. I remember riding and then being in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. And I'd been in the ambulance for about a half an hour by the time I, came to. And what I was going to ask you was, did you know exactly what incident caused it, or was it accumulation of, breaches? I'm sure there's a lot of breaching charges, things that they associate with that. But then you answered it with just the 500-pounder alone, probably caused a pretty good bit of it. I have 9 lesions on my brain from something, and they don't know if it's from the motorcycle crash or some other things, because I had to get tested for MS, because they're like, if you have 9 lesions, you have MS, you're fucked, like pretty bad. So when they did a spinal tap and it turned out to not be MS, I was pretty excited about that. However, I still can't remember most things on a daily basis. I've talked about this a little bit before. When you're in law enforcement and you shoot and kill somebody, you remember that guy forever, right? So I was in a shooting in 1999. I remember that date, the time, and the guy's name with no problem. I was involved in another shooting in 2012 where we killed the guy. I can't remember the date. I don't know his name. I remember the incident. I don't remember the address. I don't remember. And it's pretty bad. So for me, it really manifests itself in anger and memory issues, and then angry from not having memory. So it's one of the reasons why I retired a couple of years early. I was like, I got to get out. So when you get out, so since you've been out, I've talked to a lot of guys. Hey, we have Travis Bobo on. Most trainers, dog trainers, or providers or vendors in in North Carolina, some that know you pretty well. So when you got out, did you hop right into dogs pretty quick?
Yeah. So I saw it coming. The transition of getting out takes some time. So it took a little over a year. So I knew it was coming. Loved working with dogs. Definitely a passion of mine. Something that I wanted to stay in. I wanted to stay in the community. So I started my own LLC, just like everyone getting out of SF starts their own company and thinks that they're going to be a millionaire. Started up a company called Heartland Canine. It's going to start producing my own dogs, start selecting my own dogs, and at least getting the initial stages done and selling dogs. But North Carolina is extremely saturated, as you guys know. A lot of competition here. I had a decent name in the community, or at least I think I had a decent name in the community. And by happen chance, ran into Michael Vaden, who was currently the owner of Griffin Group Security Solutions. And I had been through one of his courses in 2013. We went through an insider attack training. And coincidentally enough, about 6 months later, I was in an insider attack, and I could link the training that I just went to into, instrumentally helping me survive that attack. Whereas half the team was either wounded or killed in that attack. And so we were talking about that. He was asking what I was doing. I told him about the company, and he was like, well, why don't you drop the company and just come work for me? I've got the money, I've got the resources, and you can run your own program. We don't have a dog program, and you could build it from the ground up. And I just couldn't walk away from that. So that kind of led me into the defense contract training side of things, and started down that path.
I hadn't gotten the I don't know why. There was 2 times, I think. Ted, were you there twice at Griffin or just once?
We were supposed to go twice. We just went once. We were going to do an HRD there, but COVID, we were supposed to do it in March, I think, of 2020, and COVID did hit. And so it just fell apart because it was not going to happen, because nobody could train. There was all kinds of stop orders from transfer for travel. And I mean, dudes are having trouble training in their hometown, much less driving to fucking North Carolina. But the facility was awesome. I mean, we went out and hung out with Travis and Blaylock for a day. 2-day day? I think a day. I don't remember. Yeah, we were driving around, fucking knocking people off the road.
You get to drive and do some fun shit in cars, I think.
Good pit stuff. Yeah.
These guys are sending me pictures of hard-ons. I'm like, God, come on. Stop.
No, we went through that insider training, the insider attack thing that Travis is talking about. And one of my buddies is a firearm instructor here in Tulsa. Has a version of that. And I kind of shared some of that with him. And I was like, oh, when I was out there, and he was like, that's fucking genius. And I've done that with our canine handlers with sim rounds. And it's pretty interesting. It's an interesting, you can't refute what you're seeing in front of you. I don't know any other way to put it. I mean, because I thought watching it happen, I was like, I can pretty much tell what's going to happen here. Because we had a guy that was a cop, Andrew Sterner was there, and then I think Clover was there and somebody else, and I was like, okay, I can kind of see how this is going to go, and I was wrong. So it was an interesting. I mean, you can't refute So Ray shot me in the fucking face. That sucked. So
I remember that.
Under the fucking mask, and it got stuck in my beard, and that I had green paint in my beard. That was terrible.
Mm-hmm. A lot of dudes got scars in their face from sim rounds.
Yep.
Motherfuckers. That in your hands. You get hit in the hands of sim rounds. It's like, son of a bitch. Okay, I'm dead. It sucks. All right, guys. This episode has been brought to you by great sponsors of ours. Please don't skip through this. Take a listen to them. One of our oldest sponsors and great friends of ours are the people down at Highland Canine down in North Carolina. I really like him. We see him at all the conferences. I know a lot of people have been to their school for dog trainers. They've been on the podcast. Highland Canine, they're a full service canine and pet dog training business where they can train you to be a trainer. They can get you a dog. They have handler classes. They have supervisor classes. They have trainers courses for just LE. They have them for anybody who wants to be in the dog business, be a dog trainer of any kind. Check them out. Their website is tacticalpolicecaninetraining.com, tacticalpolicecaninetraining.com. If you are smart, you'll go down there in the winter. It is North Carolina. It is warm. You get to work dogs. It's no joke school, guys. You're not going down there for a month. and rushing through it. They're actually trying to make you real deal dog trainers. TacticalPoliceCanineTraining.com.
Next is a sponsor that's been with us for quite a while, Dogtra. I love Dogtra stuff, and they continually keep bringing out new products. One of the things that I've been using a lot lately is the new Tone Box. If you're a pet trainer, or if you train a lot of police officers, and I harp at my guys all the time about timing, and this thing literally pairs to the remote, and when you're using the remote, whether you're using Nick, constant, or vibrate, it makes a noise, so you can get the timing down 100% consistent. And so I can demonstrate how to do an out with an e-collar immediately, quickly, and it is so effective that I can't believe that it took me forever to figure it out to get that. They've also got these new comfort feather, like titanium things that go on the collars that are fantastic for making sure we got contact. It actually has 6 points, and this comes in 2 sizes, and it's a titanium feather thing. They're awesome. They got comfort contact points for the bark collars, the YS600. One of my favorite things. I have about 50 of them at the kennel, and it is dead silent. And I put them on all the pet dogs, and I can leave them on because they have the comfort contact points, and they're fantastic. All this stuff you can get at dogtra.com. And if you use the discount code WDR10, you get 10% off a single item over $200. So that covers the ball trainer, that covers the 1900 Ask Hands Free, which is my personal favorite for all the big dogs. It covers the 2-dog system, the 202C, which I use for the 2-dog pet guys, and fantastic. So dogtra.com, or go to @DogtraOfficial on all the socials. That's Facebook, Instagram, all those places. So hit them up, dogtra.com.
Guys, I don't even shop any other sites when I'm looking for everything for dogs. Our one-stop shop for anything pet dog training and police dog training, hunt dog training, anything you need, you can find at rayallen.com. They have been doing it forever. We have a great relationship with them. Again, they're at all the conferences. You can stop up and talk to them. They have more stuff there than any place. rayallen.com. They are amazing. We have a great, really, really good relationship with those guys. Like I said, I get on their website. I do not look anywhere else. I just get on Ray Allen. Why should I? Fill up my cart, pay it, boom, shipping. Here we go. Everything's coming. rayallen.com. And guess what? We do have a discount code for them. Working Dog Radio for 10% off. It's all one, Working Dog Radio, and it's all caps. Check them out, rayallen.com.
I'm not too ashamed to admit that I used our own discount code to buy stuff for the kennel. We have American Aluminum next. They're a new sponsor for moving forward. They have been around for quite a while. They manufacture a wide variety of products, from the high-quality cam lockers and toolboxes to a huge line of products designed to meet the ever-changing needs of law enforcement community. Back in 1992, due to the demand for safe, secure transport for a nearby law enforcement department's canine, they introduced the very first Easy Rider canine. They have continuously grown and expanded products, catering to the needs and wants of the valued customers and a high-profile clientele. Over the years, as the needs have changed, they have evolved and expanded their products to include inmate transport systems, canine training aids, canine inserts, contraband, containment, and animal control systems, just to name a couple things. So you can find them at easyrideronline.com. That is Easy Echo Zulu Rider Online.com. You can find them on the socials at American Aluminum Accessories, and then you can hit them up toll free, 1-800-277-0869. You don't have to worry about writing all that down. We're going to put it in the show notes. So just scroll down to the bottom, write it down, click the link, takes you straight there onto your phone.
Our first sponsor we ever had, he's our ride or die. He's been with us since the beginning, is Arno over at ALM Canine Equipment. His stuff is so good. Ted, gets suits. Ted's suit, he's had it for a long time. Arno's fixed it. He's taken 1 million bites on it. It still holds up. The thing's amazing. I've got a suit from him. I love it. Use it all the time. But the main thing that I really love about Arno is his hidden sleeves are ridiculously amazing. They are the best. And his tugs. I usually buy tugs from Arno by the box load. He'll send me a whole bunch of them. I hand them out to the handlers, new handlers when they come in, experienced handlers. They last for a long time. They're amazing. The craft work is great. Arno's doing all the sewing there. He's got pre-made suits. He can do custom-made suits, everything you need out there. And he's out there in sunny Las Vegas. Get on his website, check him out, almcanineequipment.com, almcanineequipment.com. Discount code WD Radio, all caps, 10% off your first order. Check them out. So we talked about in the first episode, you guys sold Griffin, went out pretty well. Things, and you moved on. It's funny, dude. So those 3 dogs I told you about, the 2 miles and the pointer I got, came from our buddy Scott at Next Level Kennels down in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And he told me you were just there, just recently, a little while ago. And he's like, dude, there's something here in your eyes, he believes, when you're around the dogs that you still miss. Is he accurate there or what?
Yeah, he's definitely accurate there. I think it's going to be a passion that I'm going to have for a very long time. I think what ended up getting to me was honestly the community. It seemed to me to be so cutthroat and so backstabbing that I just didn't want to deal with it. And I saw it when I was working at Griffin, and I actually went and applied to K2 prior to working for Griffin. So I went down, did their entire interview process because they were right up the street. Mm-hmm. And they gave me the ominous dominus, and they were like, yeah, we want you. We want you to come in and help out with the NPC program. We feel that you'd be an added benefit. But it was, it was $1 short and a day late. I'd already talked to Mr. Baden. He'd already hired me on. So I told him, and I just told him outright I was going to take that opportunity and go over there. And it wasn't 2 or 3 months later, they approached us, and they didn't know that we had a K9 program yet, or that I was in the process of standing one up to use the facility. And once they deferred that contact, whoever that was at the time, to me, and they were like, you need to talk to our K9 guy, they kind of went blackout on me. And it wasn't but 6 or 7 months after that, I reached out to them and was like, why don't we do something together? Let's not oppose each other. Let's help each other out. We're this close to each other. You guys have a phenomenal facility. We've got a phenomenal training facility. Why don't we get together and do something? And again, it was just crickets across the board. But that's just one of many, many incidences that I ran across. And that's, outside of the normal squawk and white noise that happens on the social media side. And it kind of just drove me away from the whole thing. But when it comes to working dogs, actually, have my hands on the dogs in a box room, imprint and odor. Yeah, I love it. That's probably one of my favorite puzzle pieces to work on. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, I know you're out in the country now, like out in the middle of the country. You can always stop by Ted's and grab some leashes, man. You can guarantee he'll be like, yeah, come on in. So here's something I want to say to folks that are interested in this business or are maybe handlers coming out of the military, or they're handlers and they're police handlers. You are not, and I mean not, gonna make any money. You're not. The people who make money, like good, livable money selling dogs, are already doing it. You're just not. No one's gonna come in and become the next big thing in the police canine world. It's not happening. So I don't mean to burst your bubble. And I'm telling you, Ted and I both have very successful businesses in this, and we make money on pets more than we do on police dogs anymore. The margins now are not good. You almost make no money. So don't think, and I'm not trying to be an asshole to people, but I'm telling you, Joe Schmo handler at blah, blah police department in Wisconsin, you are not going to start a business doing police dogs and make any fucking money. I'm just telling you, you're not. Give it up. Give up the idea. It's not happening. Too many big guys are making almost all of the money. You have guys like Ted and I that are, doing okay with it, but we are not fucking rich. We are not able to only do police dogs. The guys who are only doing police dogs have set that up now, and they're in. That's just the way it is. The cost of shipping alone from Europe will run you out of business. That's all there is to it. I'm telling you right now, do something else. And Travis found this out. The cutthroat industry, the big boys, if they want, will fuck with you. I have a massive kennel an hour and a half from me, probably third biggest in the United States. Now I get along with that guy, so he doesn't destroy me, and I do some and he does some, and we refer dogs back and forth to people, and it works out real well. But he's making 7 figures, and I for sure am fucking not. And I think I'm as good or better a trainer myself personally. So, so Travis now is in something completely different. Like, I mean, there might be dogs, but it's dogs eating fucking garbage, or dogs you run out of a place you're trying to demolish. So once you make the decision that it's just not for you and you don't want to do it, how do you get into where you're at? Where does this experience come from?
Yeah, so I didn't know what I was going to do once we sold the company, and I had a nice little cushion once we sold, because while I was at Griffin, the couple of years I was there, I worked my way up through the ranks because I could teach almost everything in the schoolhouse.
Right.
So, for some reason, Mr. Vaden decided to promote me to president of the company. So I was there for the sale, and was helping him along with the sale. So he gave me some proceeds out of the sale. So I had some time to think about it. I had a little bit of money that I wanted to invest. I knew that I wanted to work for myself. I didn't want to go work a 9 to 5. I didn't know that within the first 2 or 3 months of people finding out that I was no longer at Griffin, that I was going to get phone calls from every major dog company that was out there. But I didn't know if that was something that I wanted to walk back into. And again, I would have to work for somebody else at their rules, at their pace, and I just think I was at a point in my life I didn't want to do that. So I was looking at the industries that looked like they weren't affected by COVID, and did some research. And it seemed like the construction industry kind of took off. Everything else died. It seemed like they were immune to that economic distress that was happening. And I was trying to figure out, what do I do? How do I get into that? I'm not a general contractor. I don't know how to build. And it seemed like demolition was the way to go. And the overhead was extremely cheap. I needed small pieces of equipment. I needed a truck that could haul a lot of weight, and a dump trailer, and how to break stuff without breaking stuff that I wasn't supposed to break. And I figured I could do that. So that's kind of what drove me into this. And it kind of took off on a glide path I wasn't expecting. The first month we got 1 job, and then the next month we haven't stopped working. I have to forcibly take weekends off. We easily work 14 hours a day. We're in the process of standing up a second crew. We're in the process of branching out and getting into logistics and starting to run hot shot trucks. We're in the process of purchasing a sawmill and some other stuff to kind of expand upon that. So, it's all feeding itself too, which was kind of the business nature I wanted to get into. But to answer your question before I keep ranting, was, I just wanted to get into an aspect of the economy that seemed like it was immune to what was going on at the time.
Yeah. Pets is the same though. Ted and I found out
Little
God makes dogs every day, right? Never will stop ever. So let me ask you this question based on what you're doing with the demolition. Have you become the scrap metal market price guy yet? You have a guy that does that? Is it you? Are you becoming an expert in that shit?
Yeah. So this is how I skin that cat. It's not worth my time to scrap metal for what I charge, and then to have to separate it out and bring it somewhere else, or wait till I have a full load. So if I go into, let's say a property management team hires me and they're wanting to do a gut of their apartments, or they have a renter that left everything behind after they were evicted, and they left all their appliances and all that stuff. So to save trailer space and to save my clients money, because I charge them by the load or by the quarter load, or I charge them a day rate. So, but either way, it's going to cost me money in the long run if I have to run it somewhere and drop it off. They're going to charge me to drop it off. Any landfill is. I'll call the guys that do scrap metal and tell them to get over there. So I've got a network across the state now of dudes that's all they do is scrap metal or fix appliances or fix lawnmowers. And I'll call them and give it to them for free, but they're helping me out in the same. So it's just like anything else. It's all about networking, all about who you know, all about saving that bottom dollar and that bottom line. So.
As you grow, it's going to be tough. We have some friends over here that we get a lot of buildings from the training. Their big thing is demolition. and they make a lot of their money. They'll buy buildings, demolish them, and then make money off the scrap. And I'm sure they started doing exactly what you were doing, but they got to a point where it was so big, you know, and that's just, and I don't really know that much about the industry except for talking to the dudes, because they're hard charging partying motherfuckers that donate a ton of money to K9, and we love them. They, but yeah, they know every single in and out of that business. Ted, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a relationship thing. That's what you always say. Like K9 is built on relationships. Like it's not, I mean, if all you had, if everyone based their decisions on where to buy canines and just police dogs based on the trainer's skill, there wouldn't be any bad ones. And there are. So I saw a bid notification come through a large state. I'm not going to mention the state, but this is their bid notification. You have to agree to a price of a dog for 36 months. And they can buy up to, and they can buy up to 22 dogs. And they'll buy no more than 3 at a time. So the most they'll buy in 36 months is 22 dogs, right? So you have to guarantee a price for that amount of time. Then when they'll say when we choose to buy a dog, we'll buy no more than 3 at a time, but we need 3 to pick from. So at a minimum, you have to have 9 dogs on site all the time to satisfy that contract. And then they're under no obligation to buy it from you. And I read it. I was like, fuck these guys. And I was like, it's a huge state agency. And I'm like, yeah. And they're always bitching. Like their trainer, I know him. And he's like, man, we're always having trouble finding dogs. I'm like, you know why? Right. And he's like, oh, I know why. And so I saw who got the dogs. Because I was part of the bid process. I bid some ridiculous number. I was like, sure, I'll do it. I was like, they want to pay for it, which I did not win. And the guy that won, I'm not going to mention the kennel, but is not, I know why they get bad dogs. This state, it's a highway patrol / state police agency. And I'm just like, I get it. I mean, I understand why, but I mean, if that were, and that is some dickhead, some bean counter at accounting office saying that's how they do it here in Tulsa. Like the TPD guys don't get to pick their vendor. The city hall guys, they're like, oh, they hand them a slip, like, because I get the bid notifications for them too, and I get to see who's bidding on it also. And I'm like, not even worth it, like, because you're gonna make $400 on a dog sale. Now, granted, they buy green, but I mean, it's like, and then their testing is super stringent. Their health testing is ridiculous. Not ridiculous. It's just very thorough. I'll put it that way. A lot more thorough than any other agency I've ever dealt with, which is fine. I mean, I've sold 6 dogs to them. I think I've got 5 working on TPD, 4 or 6, or I don't know, about 5-ish. And they do a good job. Like those trainers are fucking fantastic. The guy that runs the unit, Ryan Woods, is a super professional. But yeah, I mean, it's a relationship business for sure. Like it is definitely who you know, not what you know. That is 110% true. Like you said, like the giant kennel next to you, Eric, like, and that dude, like we get along. I love him to death. He's a great guy. I mean, you know, we've had him on the podcast. So like, I mean, he's a good dude.
So real quick, before we finish here, Travis, there's been 2 great episodes. The one thing I like to do is, so let's go back real quick. The dogs that you worked, if you had to take a characteristic of each dog to make the perfect one that you would have loved to work more than anything, what would you have taken from each one?
Oh man, I would have definitely taken the obedience from my first dog, from Donder. She was push button. She was a robot. Probably taking the drive from one of the last dogs that I ran. Never got to deploy with him, but his drive was through the roof. He was a Dutch, big, like Rottweiler head having Dutch. His name was Jay. But the dog was insane. He was uncontrollable, but his drive was phenomenal. When you got him out of the truck to go to work and you got rid of his little quirks and it was time to work, the dog was insane. And I don't think you could shut that dog down. I don't think you could shut him down with a ball peen hammer. He was just going to keep working. And then probably the intelligence of Jasmine. Jasmine was my favorite dog to work by far, but I'm kind of partial to her. I've deployed with her multiple times, and she had seen 10 or 11 handlers prior to me. She had been deployed more than me. She knew the theaters better than I did, and the dog was all around a phenomenal dog, and you could watch the wheels turning in that dog. She was one of those dogs you could see her thinking and problem solving before she did something. So, if I could combine those three dogs, I think that would be the perfect dog.
Yeah. If you have a dog that can be an interpreter, so to speak, for you in the theater, you know what I mean? That's pretty freaking hard to beat.
Yeah.
So what does the future hold for you here? Just working so damn much that you're not going to be able to do anything, or what's going on?
Yeah, that's kind of the plan. Is I want to play through. I want to play through with this business that I've started. I want to see where it goes, see where it takes me, and just grow it as big as I can. Grow it. Still playing with dogs. My fiance is a dog trainer out of Canada. I still talk to Scotty on the regular. I still touch bases every now and then with some of the other guys in the community. Ken Pavlik. I still talk to Roy every now and then. I'll talk to. Every now and then when Ted's not busy as hell, we'll shoot a text back and forth to each other. David Blosser hits me up from time to time. So I'm still there. I'm itching to go throw some judo on and get up there with Scotty and take some hits with some dogs just because it's been a while and I need to be reminded that I can be put on my ass. So, I'll be around. I plan on staying in the community. I'm just not going to be full tilt.
Yeah. Well, like I said, if you ever get over to Ohio, you're welcome with me anytime. Sorry, I got a dog that sounds like he's about to puke on his dog bed. That's not good. And I guarantee you, Ted's the same way. We always got dogs in the kennel that can be worked. Even if we're down to a couple, they need reps, and I like to have as many people work the dogs that I have as possible so that the dog is working for the sake of working and not because I'm the one holding the leash. That's why, I have a shepherd in my kennel right now. If I bring him in the room to do detection and you're standing in the room, it's pretty convincing as he's coming in that he's going to bite you. But if we walk outside and flip it around and I give the leash to you and I'm in the middle of the room and you come right back in, I'm pretty sure he's going to bite me. So until you start, it doesn't matter who's holding the leash. He wants to work, period. And I really like that. So, man, you're welcome up anytime. My place is best in the winter because my facility is heated with 4 bathrooms and 40,000 square feet with a simunition shoot house in it. And right now in the summer, it's hot as balls in that motherfucker. I have fans running everywhere.
It's because you have that fucking creepy tombstone in the basement.
Yes, and there is a grave in my basement of the building. A person buried from 1857 in there.
Oh, so, legitimately buried.
Yes. Yeah. There's a fucking tombstone in the basement of that building. I went down there and it's dark. Dark, you can run nods in the daytime dark and still not see shit down there. Dark.
Yeah.
Well, that's fitting. I just bought a 1902 church that's been renovated into a house. So it's creepy as hell here too. Yeah. Plus I don't have a neighbor for 2 miles. So it's pretty creepy at night. So that's fitting. I might have to take you up on that just to complete the circle.
Yeah. And it looks like you're doing well because that house you're in sounds like a giant cathedral.
It basically is.
Behind you looks huge.
It's a 1,800 square foot studio apartment, essentially. They didn't build rooms when they converted it into a house. So I'm looking at my bed and my kitchen at the same time.
So real quick, I know I asked you about this dog. Same dog as last time. The dog is awesome. Looks like a good companion. You told me whose dog it is. Just tell me the dog's name. Everybody going to want to know.
Oh, this is Kitty. This is Jessica Kelly's personal dog. She is a Malinois nanny dog mix. She's a
look at her.
Yeah,
you can see that in her face, her head.
Yeah, she's a good dog.
That's freaking awesome. So Ted, where can you be found?
Torchlight Canine, letter K number 9, Torchlight Pets. For all of the silly dog photos. I have the Northern European Terror Squad here right now. I have a Malinois puppy, a Dutch Shepherd puppy, and a German Shepherd puppy. in the kennel, and they're shitheads. And so I've got to get them out. I want to take a picture of them with all of them together, but it's like puppy fight club. Like they're fucking dickheads. They're all one of them I think is like 20 something weeks old, and the other two are like 14 and 16 weeks old. They're just jerks. But Torchlight, that we'll put them up on Torchlight Pets. I'm going to take them out. And then podcast is working_dog_radio, of course. And then HRD, we just, I think when we were on last time too, I mentioned we just finished up solidifying one for South San Francisco City, January 31st through February 2nd. So we're in the next one. I leave here in 2 or 3 weeks. By the time this airs, like I have a week away. I'm going to Billings, Montana for HRD, and that one sounds like it's full. I think we have 19 teams and 7 or 8 audit spots.
Wow, that's a lot of audits.
Yeah. So that's what I said when Ray texted me. I'm like, or sent me the roster. I'm like, what the fuck? What? Like, okay. I'm like, I mean, it's fine with me, but they're from agencies. Like, I think some from a state agency. Like, they're from some of they're obviously from Montana, but I'm trying to remember where the other ones are from. Whenever we do record after the fact, I'll remember. But that one's looking good. So, and then we just got news that the SWAT one's full. So, in
Cool.
Louisiana. Yeah, Louisiana in October after Philly. So I'm going back to Philadelphia and then leaving and going straight to Louisiana. So in October. So yeah, HRD Police K9, HRD. It's on Instagram and Facebook, and I don't think we have Twitter. No, we don't use Twitter, but except talking shit to reporters. So Travis, as always, it's been awesome, man. It's been fantastic.
Part 2.
Yeah, part 2.
Yeah,
we didn't get to,
I'm glad you guys had me back.
I wanted to cover the dogs, and how you ended up like doing this, because I got questions. People asked me like, "Oh, well, how did he get out?" I'm like, "Fuck, I know. We're gonna cover it. I know." So it's just kind of like people are like, "Oh, we only got half the story." I'm like, "All right, well."
Yeah, if we were Joe Rogan, we'd have got the whole thing.
Oh yeah,
probably got high. Whatever.
Fucking 5 hours. Fucking 5-hour podcast.
Yeah.
I don't have patience for that. So
yeah, I got to go to the kennel. So thanks, Travis. I really appreciate it, man. Good talking to you.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me back on again.
Yep. And be safe. Don't let some shit fall on your fucking head when you're knocking stuff down. Keep watch for shit on the floor. Yeah, right. Just like that.
No one outranks safety.
Yeah. Safety third is our motto. So
safety third.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys. Thanks.